Peterson. Pop up live. Unscheduled. I messed up my whole live setup. I really meant to schedule it. Then I saw Dina Marie in the chat. I'm like, how did she get in the chat? Because I just posted live without scheduling. So I had to get my thoughts ready, prepared. I have one topic. The topic is Mr. Joe Kent. Let's talk about Mr. Joe Kent. Well, the topic is actually more about a 23-year-old. I am fascinated by this. A 23-year-old young man. I mean, I think of him as a kid because I'm so old now. He's 23. He's just a really young man. Nick Fuentes is causing so much fear and anxiety across the spectrum. I'm just fascinated by this. It's like my son, wanted to play with, I think it was a scissors or something. And I was like, no, let's not do that. And that actually made him want to play with it more. It's just, so I'm just like, what the philosophies of a 23-year-old young man are making people run for the hills. Just the establishment. They've been running from this young man. Even people who are supposedly on the populist side of things. And that just, it fascinates me. I'm still learning about him and his movement that he's been a big part of. Nick Fuentes is who I'm talking about if you're just joining. But it's fascinating. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable, to be frank. So, because this came up with, I did the video on Marjorie Taylor Greene, Herschel Walker. So Herschel Walker wasn't even associated with Nick Fuentes, and he had to separate. I don't know. Maybe he made a statement. He separated from Marjorie Taylor Greene for this conference she has coming up Saturday, and I don't know why. So I'm not going to speculate why. But it's just, if it does have to do with Fuentes, then that would be like, the dude's so powerful that if you associated with him, then I can't associate with you. So I'm like, I have to see what the philosophies are of someone this controversial, this influential. Alex Jones got banned. He was the first big name that I was aware of. I'm sure there were many others before him, but he was the first big name that I was aware of that got banned from everywhere. And he made a mistake, in my opinion, and he shouldn't have been banned, but he made a mistake. And Alex Jones is great, and I watch his show InfoWars all the time. So I'm like, what's the deal with this kid? Why are we so afraid of a 23-year-old? And that's where this is kind of going. So I don't even know what the topic is. The topic is about Joe Kent. So the joke has extended. Joe Kent, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Herschel Walker, Nick Fuentes, and now CEO or founder of Gab. His name is Andrew Torba, I believe. He was on with Tim Cast. They all walk into a bar, and that's what this live is about. So this is Joe Kent. I'm showing on the screen right now. Joe Kent, he's running for election. I had no problem with him. I actually all I know from a lot of these politicians is what they tweet. And then I'm a big follower of Steve Bannon. And ironically, Nick Fuentes is not a fan of Steve Bannon. Actually really harsh against him, which kind of makes the Getter thing make more sense to me now. He got banned off of Getter before he even got on Getter. So do you see why I'm so curious about this dude? Getter banned him before he even got on to Getter. So I'm like, is this the new Triple K leader? What is going on, man? This is crazy. He's so infamous, he got banned before he got on the platform. Don't even create an account, bro. We already got you. He's 23. He's 23 years old. But Joe Kent's running, and I liked a lot of what he said. He's got the endorsement of Bannon. I like Bannon, a lot of Bannon's ideas and philosophies. And so I know a little bit about Joe Kent. Never was against him. Well, I would say that I was for Joe Kent. I would say that. I knew enough to say I don't know about endorsement, but I like what he said. So he's in this race in Washington, and the incumbent is, what's her name? Herrera or something like that? I forgot. The incumbent in this district in Washington is voted for impeachment. I'm sorry, I gotta look it up. I can't believe I can't remember her name. She voted for impeachment of Trump, so it was a very big, deal here where a lot of people wanted her gone, which I agree as well. Anyone who voted for the impeachment of Trump, for me, should be voted out of office. But I also said literally everyone should be voted out of office in D.C. in general anyway, just for a lot of what's gone on. So Jamie Herrera, I don't know, is it Butler? Is that how you pronounce her last name? But yeah, Jamie Herrera voted for impeachment, and they're all running against her in this. The primary's coming up in August in the 3rd District in Washington, and Heidi St. John is the 3rd or 4th place as of right now. I look at the money, and she's the 3rd largest money raiser there. So she's like in 3rd place as far as money goes for this race. And she called on Joe Kent to repudiate Nick Fuentes' endorsement. Republican congressional candidate Heidi St. John today called on opponent Joe Kent to repudiate the endorsement of a pro-Putin activist and a guy with the funny mustache enthusiast. So when I first see that, it's again about power and control. Joe Kent never, to my knowledge, never endorsed the ideas of Nick Fuentes. So I'm just thinking of it from my standpoint. Like if I've never endorsed Nick Fuentes, and you're asking me to repudiate him. Wait, what? I never put him on a throne. You're asking me to, what does that even mean? You're asking me to dethrone somebody? I never even put him on a throne. I never even talked. Well, he has mentioned him here in the past, and I'm going to get into that. But it's not like Joe Kent was like, this guy is so great and everything he says is excellent. Like, I'm an Andrew Yang fan. I will prop him up when he's good. I will disagree when he's not. I'm an ideas guy. So even somebody like Nicole Hannah-Jones, for example, and if somebody were to say to me, hey, why don't you repudiate Nicole Hannah-Jones? I'd be like, what does that mean? What idea of hers are you talking about? I don't agree with my wife on everything, my kids, my family. What is the purpose of this? Me denouncing somebody in general, especially somebody I never propped up. Obviously, it's a power move, a move to get some trending, a move to try and put Joe Kent in a corner. And for me, you're not going to put me in a corner. I'm tired of people telling me what I should be doing, telling me that I need to do this, telling me I need to support this, telling me I need to denounce this. Man, don't tell me what the hell I need to denounce or promote or whatever. I'm good. If you have a specific idea, let's do a broadcast together. Let's sit down and do an interview. If you want to list out all the specific ideas of somebody, maybe let's do that. I'm not repudiating anybody. I never supported them. So the response is interesting. So Heidi St. John, she did it obviously paid off because Joe Kent replied. And then he replied to her. He said, my opponents are again spreading lies about me. I strongly condemn Nick Fuentes' politics, especially in regards to our ally Israel. I don't know, maybe there was something in the past between him and Heidi St. John. I don't know how Israel even came up. We're talking about a 23-year-old random dude. Most 23-year-olds have their face planted in an Xbox. How did Israel as an ally from a supposed America First candidate, how did that even come into play? I mean, it would be like bringing in just a random topic. That was, I don't know. Maybe there's a history there. Then he said, I ignored his invitation to speak at his recent conference in Orlando. This is beta energy, bruh. Like, this is not, at least he's trying to explain. Like Herschel Walker and others don't even try. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she did okay when she tried to explain it. I'll get into that later. But he said, I ignored his invitation. What do you mean you ignored it? Stand up and say you didn't want to do it? Or, like, what do you mean I ignored his invitation? I ignored his invitation to speak at his recent conference in Orlando, and I'm not aware of, nor do I accept any endorsement from him. You're not aware? That doesn't even, I don't even know what's going on, because Marjorie Taylor Greene said that. I'm not aware of his ideas. Man, that doesn't really, it's not believable, doesn't fly with me. I said I didn't know much about him. I'm not running for Congress. I didn't speak at his event. His name hasn't come out of my mouth. So now I am more aware. There's this website called Cozy, COZY.TV, that he goes live on, and the whole event is on there. I'm going to play a couple clips from it, this AFPAC event. So I'm educating myself on him. But the one thing that doesn't change is the First Amendment. So let's go back to what Joe Kent said in 2000. Well, just last year. It feels like 10 years ago. This was less than a year ago. Joe Kent said the choice is no longer right versus left. It's liberty versus tyranny. One side wants you to control. I think he means, okay, one side wants you to control your own life. The other wants control of your life. If you question their authority, you will be removed from society. That's exactly what Heidi St. John was just trying to do to Joe Kent, is to control his life. Repudiate this one. Repudiate this. What? You don't control who I repudiate or not. I've never propped him up. So you go on, kick rocks. For someone, we need to see some stronger responses. Many are glad, this is again from last year, many are glad that their political rivals are targeted by the state and big tech. They hate Trump. Nick Fuentes, he actually at the dude when he was, I think he was still on Twitter at this time, in MAGA. The short side thinking has led to some of the greatest tragedies in human history. I agree completely with all of that. So when he says this, targeted by the state, big tech, they hate Trump, Nick Fuentes, MAGA, that's not an endorsement. This statement by itself is not an endorsement of anyone. He's just talking about what's happening. It's these people who try to control your lives, try to force you into, oh, you've endorsed somebody. I haven't endorsed anybody. I'm endorsing the First Amendment. The short side thinking is what's leading to our current tragedy in America. We must fight for all speech and fight the confluence of government and big tech. You know, if you watch this channel, I'm clapping like a baby seal right now, a year ago. So you can see why I had no problem with Joe Kent going back to a year ago. And then now, you see, it tells me a lot about where he really stands on these issues when you get pushed in a corner. Who knows? You need a lot of money to run. He's raised over, I forgot, I looked on Ballotpedia, and I think he's over $1 million raised. He's got money from people coming in. I don't know who. But those people might say, hey, we don't like this Nick Fuentes stuff. So what do you value more? And these politicians might be, I'm just saying in general, not Joe Kent, I don't know. Love to talk to him about it. These politicians might be in that position where they're like, you know what? For me to enact change, I got to get to D.C. And if I've got to denounce Nick Fuentes to get this paycheck, then I've got to do it to get this paycheck. That's the impression that I get from it. So I said, I like Joe. I've liked Joe. This is a mark against him to me. And the mark against him is not really the denouncing of Nick Fuentes. It's more when this is brought up and it may threaten your money or your ability to get to D.C., do you really stand behind the First Amendment? No, he obviously didn't. It was an afterthought. I got to denounce. Somebody said, do you denounce? I got to denounce. I'm not denouncing anybody. So I said, what does Israel have to do with America first? How did they even come up? Nick Fuentes is unconstitutionally censored from the public square, while racists, open, unequivocally racist people like Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, Nicole Hannah Jones, they get protected. So if Heidi asked me, I need you to denounce Nick Fuentes, I was like, you need to denounce yourself right now. I've never propped up Nick Fuentes. Number one, Nick Fuentes is unconstitutionally censored from the public square, while there are racists on the other side who get promoted. That is the fall of America. Let's fix that, protect our First Amendment rights, and then let's have an open discussion on the public square, all on fair grounds. Right now, you want me to denounce somebody who can't even reply on Twitter to defend themselves. Kick rocks. That's my response. Don't try to control me. So Joe, in his credit, after people pointed out this discrepancy, they said, Joe Kent said, I stand by this. No one should be deplatformed or put on a no-fly list. Reportedly, Nick Fuentes is on a no-fly list. Wow. For their political ideas. A 23-year-old for his political ideas. I don't want Fuentes' endorsement due to his focus on race, religion. The fights he's picking are counterproductive. This is not my message of inclusive populism. So there's some parts I agree here, because the identitarian stuff that I've seen from Fuentes, I'm out on. Now, for me, I'm not, anybody in the world can endorse whoever. It's not for me to denounce somebody's endorsement, but if you want to talk about his identitarianism on the white spectrum, I'm out. I don't care what the identity is. I'm not for it. The religion, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with his religious part of what he's saying. That's just me. But the reason I put this tweet up here is inclusive populism. What the hell is that? I don't understand what he means by inclusive populism. The Gab's co-founder, I think he's CEO, Andrew Torba, said inclusive populism isn't a thing. I agree with that. I mean, just in layman's terms, populism is the viewpoint that the power should be with people, the common person. There is no, what do you mean by inclusive? There's nothing else to add to that. Now, it's interesting that Nick Fuentes, and it looks like the Gab, CEO or founder, is kind of down with Fuentes. I didn't know that. I'm learning all this. But it's interesting. They call themselves, and I've heard Nick Fuentes, now that I'm listening to him more, they call themselves like Christian nationalists. And the term nationalist has been really linked to white nationalist, and that's to provide a stigma to denounce the term nationalist. Joe Biden, at his State of the Union address, he started talking about nationalist point of views when he said secure the border. That's a nationalist, and he's obviously a white male, but nobody labeled him a white nationalist for it. That's a nationalist position to secure the border, and I completely agree with it. And he also talked about independence. When you talk about energy independence, whether we know that he's not doing it, but when you talk about that, that's also nationalism. It's nationalism versus globalism. Obviously, the globalists don't want people, especially in America with the most powerful document in the world, the Constitution, they don't want nationalists in America. They really don't want nationalists anywhere. But so the Gab CEO responded and said, get on board or get out the way. This is kind of escalating to a thing here. And I'm seeing how powerful this dude is. While I don't agree with his identitarian point of views, anybody here, what I interpret it as is I don't interpret it as pure white nationalism, identitarianism. I look at it's a 5-hour stream, but I was looking at the AFPAC event. This is the one that Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke at. And I'm going to listen to the whole thing. But I found it interesting that I didn't hear it. The only people I heard the Young Turks bring it up, but I didn't know they had a black male speak at it, Jesse Lee Peterson, who's great. Follow his YouTube channel. Michael Malice was just on there. Great discussion. But they had a black male speak at this event that was supposed to be so racist or whatever else. So I found that interesting. So I don't think it's a pure identitarian point of view. What I see so far, I'm still learning, what I see is they're looking at the other side that's identitarian, color, all this, whatever the identity is other than religion. Obviously, they don't, the other side, when we look at the left side, for lack of a better term, these corporate leftists, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff, they never talk about religion. They're anti-religion. That's because their beliefs are the religion. That's because they want government to be God. You can't be a God-fearing man and believe in this identity-first side. And then they look at the maps, and you look at people of color, women, men, white people, white women, and you look at the color of the U.S., at the general election level, and you look at it and you say, well, this is what it would be if these different identity groups voted. And I think these a lot of them are young men, and you heard him make this young white man comment. I think a lot of them are like, I don't care about, a lot of them are like, I don't care about this identity at all. And you're going to hear Marjorie Taylor Greene even brought that up at the speech. So they're going after her for speaking at this event, but when she actually spoke at the event, I'm going to play a clip, she actually talked about being colorblind. And this is an event, if you say something silly, they're going to boo you the hell off the stage. This isn't like the State of the Union address where you'll clap no matter what Biden says. So I'm gonna get in a little bit into this. The Young Turks, they had a good discussion about this. And there's no right or wrong here, and I think they're entitled to have their views. I'm going to play a clip here.
At an event.
My headphone ran out of battery. I want to make sure there's no echo. So this is going to be a clip from the Young Turks. And I'm sorry, I'm just getting I have two headsets in. I'm a mess. But I'm going to try and connect this here so I don't have an echo. Give me a second. Okay, so let's play the Young Turks. I'm going to get away from Joe Kent and then go more into Fuentes and a little bit of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay, 1 second. Oops. 1 second. Let me get my audio set up. Thanks for everybody stopping by. This is just a random live, a pop-up live. I did not plan it. So I'm just going to go through this. I'm going to play this clip here, then a couple other clips. I'm going to play a couple other clips from the actual event. Because I'm like, what's going on at this event? Everyone's kind of scared of it. I want to see what's going on. So let me play this.
Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to speak at an event that was organized and founded by white nationalist Nick Fuentes. And when she received some backlash for speaking at this event, she pretended to not know who Nick Fuentes was, which is laughable. Now, before we...
I will agree with that. That's not a good enough answer. I agree completely with that. I'm not a Young Turks person. It doesn't matter. That is agreeable. That was the problem I had with her response. You're at the event. You're speaking at the event. What do you mean you don't know about his ideas? I mean, we don't know the ideas of every idea of every person. So I understand from that standpoint.
Get to her comments and her speech and all of that, I think it's really important to take a good hard look at some of the nonsense coming from Nick Fuentes just moments before Marjorie Taylor Greene took the stage to speak herself. Let's watch.
You want to know the secret? To borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, our secret sauce here, it's these young white men. That's what we call the secret ingredient. America and the world has forgotten about them, but not us. You know, they say about America, they say.
So this is the identity stuff that I don't, it's just not a path that I go down. But that's why when you talk about do I agree or disagree with somebody, you got to lay out their ideas. There are other ideas from Nick Fuentes that I would absolutely agree with. This is not even an idea, it's more of an approach. It's not even for me. What he said here is the secret sauce to his movement. He knows his movement, not me, is young white men. It's not even for me to, I don't have the stats on his movement. It's not even a statement for me to agree or disagree with. Hey, that's what it sounds like to them. Now, notice he didn't say whites only. That's not what he said. He didn't say I hire only white people or the only people in this event are white. I said Jesse Lee Peterson actually spoke at this event. I'm going to end with a clip from him.
Diversity is our strength, you know. And I look at China and I look at Russia. Can we give a round of applause for Russia?
This is weird. I don't get it. Maybe there's something I'm ignorant about here, but I don't understand the applauding for Putin. It's just bizarre to me.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And now they're going on about Russia and Vladimir Putin is Hitler, and they say that's not a good thing. And I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that, but.
And that's the clip there that I talked about in the other video. And I don't know if it was a slip up or what. And, you know, they started laughing. It's an off-color joke, and you earn your label based on jokes like that, is what I would say. And I do not, it's just not my style to have a joke like that. But I think it might have been a slip up, because if you look at him, he looked kind of awkward. It wasn't like he had that one-liner locked and loaded, in my opinion.
What other way is there to say it? Of course we know that's a terrible comparison.
Now, I don't know if I allegedly didn't know anything about Nick Fuentes or this event, and I was about to go up and speak after hearing that. You know what I would do? I'd be like, no thanks, sorry, I'm leaving. But that's not what Marjorie Taylor.
That's fair. That wouldn't be my approach, but that's fair. I think she's completely fair if she says that. Just there's nothing unfair or disingenuous about saying that. It's just not her type of thing.
Taylor Greene did. She watched that. She saw what was going on during this event. The American First Political Action Conference, that's the title of the event. And she's like, awesome, I jump in it. She goes and she gives her speech. And then when she gets backlash, she's like, oh, me? I didn't know what I was doing. I never know what I'm doing.
I love this Marjorie Taylor Greene impression here. This is funny. This is Anna being funny here. I don't know if she was even trying to be funny, but I love this Marjorie Taylor Greene impression here. And I agree with her. That's not a good answer, but this is hilarious.
Backlash, she's like, oh, me? I didn't know what I was doing. I never know what I'm doing. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So I'll give you the details of all of that in just a second. Cenk, go ahead.
So there's two interesting things that come out of that speech by Fuentes. First of all, if you didn't know going in, to Anna's point, you certainly knew by the time you heard him speak. And remember, this was not before the invasion. This was after Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
Now, secondly,
that part doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't care about Ukraine or Russia now. I don't want the people of any country to suffer. But when you talk about taking sides from the government of Russia or Ukraine, both of them can kick rocks to me. I don't care. Suffering, don't want to see any people suffer. But Cenk has a point here.
I said that a lot of the right wing in this country is rooting for Putin because they like that he is a white warlord and that he doesn't care about woke culture. He hates the same people that they hate, and they like him because he's white. And here's a room full of white supremacists literally chanting Putin, Putin here in America. If they were trying to prove me right, they couldn't have done a better job.
He has a point. I don't agree. I don't necessarily agree with Cenk here, but he definitely has a clip to prove that kind of controversial tweet that he was trending for the other day. If you're going to chant Putin, you're basically feeding into justifying Cenk. So I don't have a problem with anything they said there. I think they had a good discussion about it, even though I don't agree with them on everything. Here was Marjorie Taylor Greene's response.
I'm glad to talk to you about this. I do not know Nick Fuentes. I've never heard him speak. I've never seen a video. I don't know what his views are, so I'm not aligned with anything that may be controversial. What I can tell you is I went to his event last night to address his very large following, because that is it's a very young following, and it's a generation I'm extremely concerned about.
It's a white nationalist group.
Excuse me a minute. I'll tell you exactly why I went. I went to talk to them about America First policies, and I talked to them about what's important for our country going forward. Now, in regards to Russia, Putin is a murderer, and he should have never invaded Ukraine. What he is doing is completely wrong. I stand with our NATO member allies, and I'm completely against this war.
It's a white nationalist
Excuse
group.
me, I'm going to finish. Everything that he's doing is wrong. He's killing people over and over. So I'm staunchly against it, and I'm staunchly against Vladimir Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. Another thing that's extremely important for me to say is the whole reason this is happening is because Joe Biden is a weak president. Now America is a weak country, and our entire world is falling apart, and we're seeing war erupt, which did not happen under President Trump because we had peace through strength. So this is something that we've got to really focus on, and I'm appalled at our country for putting America last this way, making us depend on China, Russia, and foreign countries for our critical supplies and our energy.
Do you endorse Nick Fuentes' views?
Excuse me, I don't know what his views are. I've never.
He's a white nationalist.
I do not endorse those views. The reason why I went was to talk to the audience, just like I've talked to many different audiences. I've talked to Democrat union workers earlier this week. I've talked here at CPAC. I talked to his people who were there. It wasn't an alignment. It was to talk about getting everyone together to save our country. And I think that's what's
Could I ask,
important.
why did you take the stage though?
An appearance is an
After he said that
endorsement.
Young white men.
So her comments there, it wasn't all bad from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is a difficult thing, so I don't want to pass this along like this is just some easy thing to do. She's navigated an area that I haven't seen any politician really navigate in my lifetime. So she's kind of like a pioneer in this. And this first part of this is where the mistake came, is where she said, well, I don't know his views. I don't know his views. My response is, we've had this discussion in our country. This is the discussion of the First Amendment. I'm willing to go build with anybody. If hypothetically, if Nicole Hannah-Jones and I actually exchanged tweets before, I thought we had decent, rational discussions until she blocked me, and I don't think I did anything, egregious, but it's her prerogative. But my point is, I would love to talk to Nick Fuentes. I'd love to talk to Nicole Hannah-Jones. I'd love to talk to Jamel Hill. I'd love to talk to Jason Whitlock. I believe in the First Amendment. Why are you so scared of a 23-year-old and his ideas? Me going to talk to somebody is not an endorsement, sir, and don't try to make it one. What does that even mean, to endorse somebody like I endorse all of anybody? I support Andrew Yang. Do I agree with all of his ideas? No. I support Tulsi Gabbard. Do I agree with all of her ideas? No. You watching this channel, do you agree with all of my ideas? Hell no. That'd be impossible. So what are we talking about? I believe in the First Amendment. That's what I believe in. And the reason why we have it is to exchange ideas. And that's where she got into. So take the part where she's like, I don't know Nick Fuentes out. She actually had some good stuff in there. She's like, I spoke to Democratic-based unions the other day. I spoke to another group the other day. I wish she would have even said, I've had my disagreements with Ilhan Omar and AOC. I'd love to speak with them and see if we can build on something. Let's start with where we agree. You're worried about Nick Fuentes, but we have open racists on Twitter and YouTube, and we have open racist language in our Constitution when we talk about the word equity. And we have in Texas, Governor Abbott, who I am not a fan of. I never heard him speak about this race-first approach to medical treatments to the pandemic. That's racist. And you're worried about a 23-year-old? Man, get that microphone out of my face. You need to have a stronger response to that, and the response needs to be based on the First Amendment. So let me look at the comments here. Let me remove this. Somebody, Mimo, thanks for stopping by, said Nick is a white supremacist. He's against interracial marriage and the state of Israel. He would fit right in with the squad. I don't care. My wife is white. I'm obviously for interracial marriage. I don't care. He can have his views. The First Amendment is very simple. It's not, well, when you break it down to this, this scenario, you can believe whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, as long as you don't infringe on someone else's rights. And that's decided through the court system. Or I can personally decide that, hey, your belief infringes on my rights. But to me, I haven't heard Nick Fuentes say that, but let's say that's all true. I don't care. What does that have to do? What does that mean? So I'm going to denounce a whole person based on that? If he's against it, he's against it. I'm not. Obviously, I have a different point of view. Like, where are we at as a country right now? Like this thing that happened at the, there was this, I don't want to get too much in the side note, but these protests at these universities where they don't even let the other side come in and speak, like Matt Walsh and other people. Like, well, what are we doing? Let's have a debate. Let have Nick Fuentes debate somebody. Have him come on. He'll debate anybody, basically. And then people can decide where they fit. If Nick Fuentes said, hey, I want you to come speak on my channel, my first thing would be like, let's set up a meeting, let's talk, let's build and see if there's something that makes sense here. What are you about? Let's talk about it and see is there somewhere where we agree? Let's talk about it and see what we can do. Same, no difference to somebody who agrees with critical race theory. And my style is I'm not really looking into yelling debates and arguments. It's just a waste of time to me. If we can talk about where we agree, like I talked about, I went on with Jen Perlman. She's populist left. I'm somewhere right of her. Absolutely, I'm fine with that. I'm going to try and go on with libertarians and talk about where we agree. You're trying to hurt the discussion in our country. And there's only one group that benefits. It's those who want to control things. The thing that would scare people the most is to see people who are in the middle side with Ilhan Omar in some areas and Nick Fuentes on others. Or actually find areas where Nick Fuentes and someone like Rashida Tlaib agree on. That's where the power comes from. So I'm going to end with a couple clips. Every time I share this way, it comes up kind of funny. So let me know if the the video always lags, but I'm really more concerned about the audio on these clips. So let me try to get this clip here. Okay, so this is Marjorie Taylor Greene at this is AFPAC. This is this supposed, I'm still listening to it. It's a 5-hour stream, so it's going to take me a minute to get through. But this is the white supremacist event. So I'm just like, man, the white supremacists nowadays, they seem to be pretty open-minded if this is what they're okay with.
But big tech, who is totally integrated with our United States government, decided that my tweets were propaganda machine took over and they deleted my account. But I know many of you in this room knows exactly what that feels like, because you know what it's like to be canceled. And that's why I'm here to talk to you tonight. I don't believe anyone should be canceled. I don't believe in separating people in identities. I don't believe in separating people in classes. But that's what the Democrats believe in, because that's what Marxism is. That's what communism is. And I know it's hard to comprehend, but in China, they separate people by class. And the Democrats have learned that very same trick, and they're trying to do the same thing to all of us here in America and separate us by identity. Well, I reject identity politics because there's one thing I know. It doesn't matter what your skin color is or any of these choices and all of these things that are said. It matters who you are as a person, it matters who you are in your character, and it matters how you treat other people and the type of life you live. And so we have to stand together as Americans.
So that's the type of speech that gets applause at a white supremacist event? Explain that to me. Now, it wasn't a thunderous applause, but you're going to go after MTG for speaking at the event. Well, let's talk about what she said at the event. Like if I go to a Triple K event and I speak the same philosophies and ideas that I do on this channel, so what? And they clap? Isn't that a good thing? Like, that's not an endorsement of everything that they believe in. I don't understand why we're doing this and we're okay with this. If I went to an event for whoever promotes critical theory and I still talk about the same stuff I do here, or maybe I will change it just to, avoid an argument or something like that, but I still stay true to what I believe, that's a good thing. And I have them come on the channel. Maybe we don't agree on everything, but we still stay with where we are. That's a connection. It's much more dangerous to ostracize this group than to have somebody speaking to them.
We have to stand together as Americans and make sure that our government and our hard-earned tax dollars, because believe me, it takes a lot of hard work to earn money, that all of that money is serving our country, not serving foreign country, building bridges and roads and schools, but it is working for our country, securing our border, bringing our jobs back home, and making sure that our people are being taken care of. And then lastly, what we have to do is we have to make sure that this young generation that is facing such a critical time, a time like never before in our American history, that you all have a future. And that's something that really matters to me. But this government has failed you, and it makes me sick and it makes me angry every single day. As a matter of fact, that's the whole reason why I ran for Congress. Because this is what I see forward in the future. We are actually going to have to find a time where we know what it's like to stand for our faith as Christians. We know what it's like to actually stand up for our freedoms in the face of tyranny, and that's what the Democrat Party is. You see, they haven't spoken against Justin Trudeau, the son of Fidel Castro, have they?
So that's a little clip there. Let me go to the comments and see what people are feeling on this. For me, that was based. I didn't have any problem with what she said there. I don't know. I'm going to end with a clip from Jesse Lee Peterson in a second, but let me go to the comments real quick and see what people are thinking. Casual Goats, thank you for stopping by as usual. Casual Goats has been in the chat. Casual Goat says, wait, she's talking about class and race separation, but isn't that kind of what Fuentes is into? This is confusing. Yeah. So her going to the event doesn't mean, see, that's what she was trying to say. But that's why it was so important when she said, I don't know what he believes. And instead, it would have been better to me to say, he is entitled to believe whatever he wants to believe. My speech wasn't about white nationalism. My speech was about this. And that clip I played from Marjorie Taylor Greene, I agree with every single piece of it. So I don't understand. I'm confused. She went to speak to a group. Like, we don't need to only speak to groups that we agree with. That's the problem where we're at in this country right now. We're siloed, echo chambers. Yeah, and not only did she say that at that group, they gave her an applause. Applause that she didn't like ask for it. It just happened. That's why I think their focus on the white part of it, I don't know if it's really, I think it's confused young people, and it's a marketing thing. That's where I have beef with Marjorie Taylor Greene at times. They yelled during the State of the Union address, yelled about the 13 servicemen and women that passed in Afghanistan, which is sad, and I like that they stood up for them. But them interrupting the president, I was not for. It was a marketing thing. They wanted to trend. They didn't really want to be there to hear the president speak, so they had to make a thing of it. And that's just one of those marketing things. Marjorie Taylor Greene with her marketing, using the gun to blow up the car or whatever. Marketing. That's where I have the most problem with them. But when you talk to her, talk about that speech there, that was base. She's like, I'm not here about race or identity. And we know some people in that crowd probably were there for identity, in at least in part. Okay. We don't need to dwell on where we disagree. She got applause for it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not explaining it well, but that's how I feel about it. It's you notice all the criticism about Marjorie Taylor Greene, nobody's talking about what she actually said. Here's where I'm going to end. Thanks for stopping by. I think this was, I have to be careful with this speech because I know there's a lot of it that would not be YouTube friendly. But let me go back to the tab real quick. Hell no. Let me go back to the tab here and find, I think it's like at 8, wait, let me see. I forgot. I'm trying to find where Jesse Lee was at. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. I'm going to find where he started. Just play a little bit of it. I had no idea he was actually there until the Young Turks actually brought it up in their video. The Young Turks brought it up in their video, and then I was like, whoa. About 3 hours in, he spoke. Give me a second, trying to find it here. Thanks for all the comments as usual. Bishop had a comment here, not a fan of Nick Fuentes because I don't like any type of rigid identitarianism. These are the people who once they come into power, become authoritarian. I agree with that. We see it with the left and it goes both ways. I agree completely with Bishop. That is concerning, but I'm not voting for Nick Fuentes to have any institutional power, though. That's a whole different topic. You know what? Nick Fuentes, obviously with his influence, I would probably expect him, and he's very smart dude. Oh, I've been listening to his lives on Cozy TV. He's way more knowledgeable than I am. He's 23. He's very well read. Very knowledgeable on politics, very well connected. So he knows like the inside politics. He's an impressive young man. And my point with that is I would expect him to, if he doesn't run for politics when he gets older, to be a political figure. I actually expect Nick Fuentes, just from the little bit I'm watching with him, I wouldn't be surprised if he matures into a very powerful and intriguing figure. Because think about where you were when you were 23. If you're like I'm 44, if you're older than 23, and your ideas have matured from where you were as a 23-year-old, think about going back to your 23-year-old self and how much you've matured. So he could go even more darker or whatever, however your perspective is, but he could also become more based. It's very possible. Kind of reminds me of Anakin Skywalker. You got superpowers, very talented. That comic Dave Smith said it. He did a debate with Nick Fuentes. It was a great debate. They actually were chatting for a lot of it. It wasn't like a yelling debate. I don't like those. But comic Dave Smith was like, man, I wish that we had that talent on our side. I said that about Nicole Hannah-Jones too. I said, I wish she's a boss. She's extremely influential and talented, and that's why the establishment has scooped her up. They don't want her power anywhere else other than in her control. And that's why they banned Nick Fuentes. The establishment can't control him, so you can't have him on platforms. So great. Thank you, Bishop, for stopping by. If you're still here, great comment. Coswell Goltz, my 23-year-old self almost became a normie commie without realizing it. The commie side for me personally never appealed to me, but your point stands. You're different. So Fuentes is only 23, about 23, 24. Where is he going to be when he's 50? He might be a whole different dude. Who knows? His power has risen through this movement he's created, so he would have to evolve the movement and his self. But yeah, I will tell you for a fact I was a normie. I was a normie in 2019, much less when I was 23 years old. I was a pure normie. I listened to a lot of politics, always followed it, but I was clearly a normie. I'm going to end with this clip here. I'm just going to play a little clip. We'll see how long it goes. I finally queued it up. Jesse Lee Peterson. So this is the supposed white, and this doesn't mean it wasn't a white supremacist event. I still haven't listened to the whole event, but it's a supposed white supremacist event, and you've got a black man speaking at it? Okay, is that what white supremacists do right now? However, whatever people think, but that's why I want to go look at it for myself. I'll make my own determination.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Amazing.
So white supremacists yelling Jesse. Okay.
Amazing. It's amazing what Nick has done here, right? 20-something years old. It can be done. So I realized time is late now, and as Nick said, people love to talk. And black people love to talk. But I got to tell you, I'm founder and president of Bond, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. And our purpose is to rebuild the family by rebuilding the man, bringing back God's order. And that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. Nothing else is going to work but that. Not gonna work. And we have been around now for 32 years, this February. It makes our 32 years of Bond, better known as Bond. We have an entrepreneur program where we are teaching young men how to start businesses and how to run businesses. We started a credit union because a lot of the guys didn't have good credit. I don't know if white women do this, but black mothers take your credit and use it in her name when you're a baby. And so when you're trying to grow up, you can't use, that's right, baby. You can't get credit. So we started a credit union for our entrepreneur program to loan the money to the guys and they pay it back so we can keep it going. We also have an academy that we're building on radio, 24-hour talk of all conservative men only. 24 hours of talk, and it's just been amazing to see this happen. Real fast, 2 minutes of my time, I want to introduce you to some of our tribe that we have here. First, we have Chris. Can you stand real fast, Chris? Chris is the audio engineer. He's the audio engineer. He's against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities and wickedness in high places. And I want you to know that so that when they call you names, when they call you racist or Alcatab. I've been called every name in the book and then some. Some of the names I'm not familiar with, right? But I love what's right. I love God with all my heart, all my soul, and all my might. I love God above anything else, and because I love him, he took away the fear, so I have no fear. And I want to tell you quickly how to overcome fear. And I used to have fear. I was a beta male at one time. I was beta. Beta. And I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama. I grew up under the Jim Crow laws and all that stuff that you hear all the time. But I can honestly tell you, growing up, because I had my grandparents, I had my parents, they didn't hate. They told us to treat all the way that we would like to be treated. And they said that there was good and evil in all human beings. There are those who are good, and there are those who are evil. And so I grew up with that understanding. But when I moved to Los Angeles at 18, I started to listen to Jesse Jackson and others, the civil rights movement, so-called civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was the worst thing that ever happened to the blacks. It was the worst thing. It really was. It was the worst thing. Because prior to that, black people had no leadership. God was the leader, right? And parents was the head of the children. And that order worked. We were taught to work. I used to have to pick cotton before, after I get out of school or stay home. Anybody ever pick cotton? You have not lived until you pick cotton. It was amazing. And I remember that I would have to catch the bus to go to school at 7 a.m. My grandparents would make me get up to go and bring the cow from the field to the barn, milk the cow, feed the cow, and put the cow back out to pasture, come home and get dressed for school, be at the bus at 7 p.m. At 7 a.m. Isn't that amazing? I was taught to work. I was taught to be responsible. So I do want to tell you how to be born of God. God said that we must be born again. And if anyone, and I'm a living witness, if anyone has any anger at all, one iota of anger, then Satan is your daddy. God is not your daddy. You can read the Bible until the cows come home. You can accuse, but if you have one bit of anger, Satan is your daddy, and you're not going to win this battle.
So I'm going to stop there. At least this moment, to me, that's a beautiful thing. It's even, if you think that this is a white supremacist event or want to label it that, that's perfectly fine. But to hear him say that at this event is the reason why we have the First Amendment. So our country is unique. He's telling his story, growing up on a plantation where literally his ancestors were enslaved on. And he has the opportunity. America is so beautiful. America is so beautiful that he has the opportunity to go in front of a group that people label as a white supremacist and tell his story. And they clap for him and laugh with him. What are we doing right now? I'm tired of this labeling people so we don't commingle. The message is beautiful. You don't have to agree with everything, of course. The message to me and what I see in his heart is beautiful. And I give Fuentes credit to have him there and speak. At the end of the day, if I were walking down the hall room, let's just imagine a hall, and I've got two doors to go to, and you would say, hey, which door do you feel more safe in? The door of critical theory, where people have been indoctrinated through the ideas and philosophies of critical theory? Or would you feel more safe going into the door of people who have been indoctrinated in the ideas of Nick Fuentes? It's not even a debate. I would go in the Nick Fuentes door. And that has nothing to do with skin color. It's just my beliefs. There's nothing right or wrong. If your beliefs are critical theory, you would feel more safe in the critical theory room. And that's okay. But you know what? I would like to go to both rooms. I would like everyone to have a voice. Dina Marie, thank you so much for the super chat. Just a little support. That means a lot. So thank you, Dina Marie. Appreciate you. So that's where I'm going to leave it out. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. I think it's a great topic of discussion. And if you want to go see more on Fuentes on your own, Cozy TV is the best place. He is on Gab as well and Telegram. I'm not really good with Telegram. I'm on there, but I don't even know how to use it. But thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you. Take care.